Hey everyone, and welcome to the Psychic Activist Podcast. I'm your host, Natty Beats. I am a trance channel, psychic development expert, healer, activator, all that good shit, and author of Upgrade From Within, which you can get on Amazon. Today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the psychic effects of drugs and alcohol. This is something that has been very widely requested. I want to preface this episode by just saying I do not want this episode or anything else to make you feel in any way shameful about your current life choices or previous life choices. I do not want you to feel in any way, shape, or form that you are unworthy of being psychic, that you are not walking the spiritual path, or that you don't have a good spiritual connection, or you don't deserve a good spiritual connection just because you on occasion still go out and drink alcohol, take drugs, party, whatever. That is not what this is about. I know that there are a lot of spiritual teachers out there that will tell you to absolutely stay away from drugs and alcohol, and while yes, they are not great, and we'll get into that, and there's a lot of negative things that can happen. And also, if you are struggling with addiction, please get the appropriate help. I don't want anything that I say on this podcast to be misconstrued in any way. It's a very, very difficult subject for me to tackle. I don't want any of you who are struggling with active addiction to start looking at the energetics that I'm talking about and how we can change them and use that as a justification for staying in cycles of addiction. Okay, so I'm taking full responsibility for your own health and well-being whilst listening to this podcast. And also, as usual, please only take on what resonates with you. Feel free to disregard the rest. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to jump straight in. I want to talk a little bit, first of all, about contracts, curses, and permissions. So, on the whole, drugs and alcohol, and when I say drugs and alcohol, I am not talking so much about psychedelics, as they are a little bit different, and I'll come on to them later. I'm talking about your party drugs. I'm talking about cocaine, ketamine, pills, alcohol, speed, also talking about crack, smack, meth, all of those things that I don't know so much about because I've never personally taken them. But basically all of the party drugs and alcohol, things that we go out and might take at a rave or a festival, all of these things lower your vibrational frequency. And as someone who is a healer or a psychic, this can actually be quite dangerous to you energetically, because when you lower your vibrational frequency, it's like taking your barriers down, taking your protection down, and potentially inviting things in. So for example, if you are at a rave and you're drinking drugs, sure, drinking alcohol and taking drugs, you've lowered your vibrational frequency, and there happens to be someone standing next to you that has a lot of dark spirits attached to them. Your bright light inside will literally attract these dark spirits. They're going to go, look, she's open for business, and jump straight the fuck into you. This happened to me. This has happened to me on a few occasions while I was still learning how to protect myself, and also when I used to still take cocaine. An example of this would be summer solstice 2021, which was the last time that I took a sizable amount of drugs and made myself very, very unwell. I partied for 2 nights in a row. I took lots of cocaine, I took ketamine, I took MDMA, I took pills, I probably took some speed, I drank a lot of alcohol. I went a little bit crazy. It was the last time that I did that, and I knew as well afterwards that I would never do that to myself again. But apart from the most insane come down I've ever had, and questioning my life, questioning whether I even deserved to be on this earth, a lot of that was due to the fact that I had essentially hoovered up an entire field's worth of dark spirits, and they were just attached to me. I had a session with Wolfgang a couple of days after this rave, and he said, "What the fuck have you been doing?" He said, "Your stomach's full of dark spirits, you've got holes in your aura." And I said, "I went to a rave and took loads of drugs." And it took a lot of fixing and removing things to put me back together. And it made me realize that a lot of the reason that we feel such insane come downs and drugs make us so unwell is because of the amount of entities and attachments that are drawn to you when you're taking drugs and alcohol. So that's due to lowering your vibration. The other thing that can happen is when you take a fuck ton of drugs and alcohol and you are, you know, the phrase getting out of your head, right? I'm off my fucking face, I'm off my head, whatever. It's because you pretty much leave your body. Like when you're that drunk and you can't walk, it's because no one's fucking steering. When you've taken ketamine and you're in a K-hole, mate, ain't no one fucking home. Your body's just laying on the side of the road. When this happens, and you're literally essentially moving yourself out of the way, you are opening up your body. If your spirit isn't in your body, you better believe something else is going to try and fucking jump in there. Again, especially those of us who are psychics, healers, we're just more susceptible and open to this because the quote unquote evil shit out there that is trying to keep the planet stuck and trying to keep us sort of nailed down to the floor and stop us from rising, they're going to go for the light workers first, right? It's why light workers have to use so much energy protection when we do healing sessions and when we connect psychically. So if you're taking that much drugs and alcohol to be that off your face and not using any protection or any of the things I'm going to go through later on, although you shouldn't be getting that inebriated anyway, it's essentially moving yourself out of the way and saying, hey, look at this empty human puppet, come and fucking steer me for a bit. And I'll do another podcast on entities and attachments and stuff. But when we've got entities and attachments, it can be literally like someone else is taking over our life. It can be like we've got nasty voices in our head, loads of negative belief systems, bad behaviors. All of this can come from entities and attachments. So obviously that's something that we want to avoid at all costs. Now, the other thing that happens, so some of you might think, as I thought and I questioned, but free will is the most important thing I have, and I know that I'm completely fucking sovereign. So how are these entities getting permission to enter my space and my energy field when I'm not giving permission, and I'm expressly saying I do not give permission frequently because of the work I do? How is it that when I take drugs and alcohol, these dark entities are managing to cling on and managing to jump in? And it's because there are a lot of deep parasitical contracts working on a deep astral level. You are giving permission for these things to interact with you when you take a sip of alcohol or when you stick that shit up your nose. In doing the action, in giving permission for that substance to enter your body, you are giving permission for all of the parasitical entities, the contracts, the curses, the vows, the spells that go with that substance. Okay, this is something that I discovered a few months ago whilst working with a bottle of tequila. I did a session on a bottle of tequila, and I was trying to find out more information about these things. So essentially, when you sniff that line of cocaine or shot that tequila or whatever it is, you are literally opening yourself up and giving permission for whatever dark things are in place to enter. So there's lots of things we can do with this, which again I'll go into later in the podcast, but just as a little I guess a little preview just now, if you're going to drink alcohol, just try chucking out there and saying, putting your hand over it, sending love into the glass and saying, I do not consent to any of the associated contracts, curses, vows or spells that go with drinking this alcohol. I am not consenting to enter into any dark contracts, to accept any energies into my field that do not belong. And you can ask also for the alcohol to be purified and all of that. Now, I am not saying that you, again, should go out and use this to then become a fucking alcoholic, or so that you can drink every weekend or every day or whatever. Alcohol still fucks you up. Like, it's not a good thing. I'm just giving this to you because I know that we're all human. I personally still go out maybe 3-4 times a year and I dance my fucking ass off, and I have alcohol, I'll have a little bit of MDMA, I'll have some mushrooms, I have a great fucking time. I do not personally see anything wrong with that. I'm not going to apologize about that, and I'm not going to apologize about saying it. But that is a huge difference. I'm sober 24/7. Other than that, I'm very mindful. I do a lot of energy work with it. There's a huge difference between that and habitually going out and getting fucked up on the weekend to cope with your life and doing it trying to use energy work to overcome that, it ain't gonna fucking, it's not gonna cut it, okay? So just know that there's levels and a spectrum to all of this. Okay, so that's contracts, curses, and permissions. That basically, yeah, that's how we enter into these things. So now I'm going to go through, and I'm just going to go through different substances and tell you some of the associated things and tell you some of my own experience. So let's start with alcohol, which is probably the most common one. Unfortunately, the entire fucking world seems to be drinking alcohol, especially here in the UK when I live. It is such a huge part of British culture. If you go on any fucking dating app, it's really hard to find any profiles where there's not at least one picture of alcohol. It's absolutely terrifying. I could talk about alcohol for hours and go into a whole big thing about that. Alcohol essentially is a way of controlling the population. There is a lot of really interesting ways that the government tricked us into thinking that it was cool and tricked all of the people that see themselves as rebels and against the establishment, and they go out and fucking drink and fuck you and anarchy and all of that. And it's like you're actually just playing into their hands and exactly what they fucking want. They worked very hard to put out campaigns to make sure that alcohol appealed to a certain demographic of people, which are the starseeds, the outcasts, the lightworkers, the neurodivergents, all of us fucking magic folk, right? It's a good way of keeping us controlled, of keeping us out of control of our own destiny, of our own life. Again, I'm not going to go too far into that because I'll go on a bit of a rant, but alcohol in general, not a good fucking thing. On the flip side of that, I'm autistic and ADHD. Most of you listening to this will be some flavor of neurodivergent, even if you haven't quite realized it yet, because neurodivergence is pretty much just a human label for those of us that are more sensitive, i.e. psychic Sallies, right? Psychics, healers. That's how we read subtle energies, by having intense sensitivities. Also means that we have a lot of sensory issues and everything else that goes with being neurodivergent. What I have found, and I know it's true for a lot of people, is that personally, the only thing that turns down my sensory issues so that I can exist at a festival or like a loud club for any length of time is alcohol, which is annoying as fuck. If this wasn't the case, I would probably literally only drink alcohol 3 or 4 times a year. Currently, in between those times, if I want to go out for like a friend's birthday or something, for example, and I know it's going to be in a busy restaurant, I spent over a year just saying no to these things because I couldn't cope. I have now started going out and having one alcoholic drink that I do a lot of energy work with before I drink it, because it just turns everything down so that I can actually be present with my friends and actually enjoy the night. Okay, so in that way, I use it as a little bit of a tool. Again, I am not saying this to give you an excuse to go out and get fucking twatted. It's literally one alcoholic drink and I'm doing energy work with it. So in that way, it can be a little bit of a tool for psychics and healers, and I totally understand why so many light workers get sabotaged and pulled into addiction in that sense, because we're too fucking sensitive for this world. Like, this world is not set up for us. Areas of this world are not set up for this. If we can just be in nature all the time and go and live in a fucking cave, and you don't want to go to big music events or be in busy restaurants or pubs or whatever, then that's absolutely fine. And I know that there's, before anyone emails me saying that I'm really irresponsible saying all this, I know that there is a lot of different ways to ground yourself, to protect your energy, blah, 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 blah. I do all of those things as well. But sometimes energy protection, crystals, cacao and everything alone, for me personally, doesn't cut it. And they're the people that I'm speaking to with this podcast. This podcast is about drugs and alcohol after all, and I'm just getting brave and sharing my personal experience. So with alcohol, they call it spirits for a reason. When you are drinking a lot of alcohol, you know, when you see people when they're really, really drunk and it's like they're vacant and they're not there, it's literally like their spirits left their body, something else has inhabited them. and it's kind of like being possessed, right? I'm sure you've all had the experience of seeing someone that is that drunk that you can tell that they are not in there anymore. It's pretty much because there's either no one steering or they're possessed by something fucking nasty. So again, alcohol, no bueno. Let's go into cocaine. Let's go into cocaine. What a sentence to say on a spiritual podcast. So, cocaine, in my opinion, one of the most underestimated bad drugs out there because it's so fucking socially acceptable. Crack, smack, heroin, all absolutely fucking terrible. Meth, like, I would never go near any of these things. Yet I still took cocaine for about 15 years of my fucking life. Never addicted to it, never took it every day, but would still take it when I went out and partied. And it energetically, cocaine literally disconnects your head from your heart. Okay, so you know when you get that, those of you who've taken cocaine, when you get anxious, like when you get cocaine anxiety, or when you get anxious the next day and you feel a bit twitchy and unsure of yourself, it's because you literally are not connected to your fucking heart space. You are, it's like you're a fucking floating head wandering around. And when you are in tune with your body, you can feel this. So you might, like myself before I stopped taking it, get really bad anxiety and panic attacks during and for several times afterwards. Cocaine is also, in my opinion, probably one of the worst ones. I'm sure that meth and heroin and everything that is really puts people into cycles of addiction has way worse contracts. But again, because I've never taken any of them, I'm going to stick to what I know. Cocaine has some really fucking heavy contracts involved. I'm talking about fucking soul contracts, shit that was put in, shit that was seeded in your fucking soul, shit that you agreed to in past lives. I'm going to give you an example of something that came up with me a couple of years ago. So I stopped taking coke on my 33rd birthday. I'm now coming up for my 36th birthday. And again, I barely took it. I took it maybe once every few months, but it was the only drug that I couldn't control once I took it. Once I had a line, that was it. I was up for 2 days. I was in everyone's fucking pocket looking for more. I could have been puking, having a panic attack, nose bleeding, and like crying, and I would still be hanging over the toilet asking my friend to rack me up a fucking line. And this is someone who, for the rest of the time, was a personal trainer, spiritually tapped in, did energy work, all of this fucking sort of stuff. Yet once I'd had that line of coke, it was like something else took over and I was fucking possessed and I could not fucking stop. I later found out that this was because I made a deal with an actual demon. So I was doing in a healing session and I was calling in the aspects of me that liked doing cocaine. So first of all, the aspect of me that wanted to do cocaine was 8-year-old me. 8-year-old me saw cocaine as a way of just having fun and letting loose and being completely unaccountable for their actions. So 8-year-old me was like, fuck, yay, team cocaine, let's go. So when you're doing this deep spiritual work around drugs, drug addiction, all of that, you might be really surprised at what aspects of yourself are actually holding on to that lifestyle. So this 8-year-old aspect of me made a deal with a demon, okay? I made a deal with a demon when I incarnated into this life to take, so that I could take as many drugs as I wanted without having anything bad to happen to me, essentially without dying. So there's a lot of times in my teenage years where I reasonably shouldn't be here. I have a lot of friends that aren't here anymore. There's a lot of people over the years that have died of drugs and alcohol, either overdoses or suicide related or freak fucking accidents. And I have had a lot of freak accidents. I've been in a lot of positions where, as a small woman, I consumed an unreasonable amount of drugs on a frequent basis as a teenager. I mixed everything, took everything I could, fitted it all up my fucking nose and in my face. Had a great time for the most part, but also reasonably should have died many times. Now, I basically got shown by this demon. It was literally like a red cartoon demon sat there rolling dice at me. And basically I had a contract with this demon, and the contract was that I would be able to take as many drugs as I want and that I wouldn't die, nothing really bad would happen to me. But in return, I would not stop taking drugs. So what the demon was getting to essentially feed off my energy while I was taking drugs, because there's a lot of dark entities out there that want to keep you in cycles of addiction. So my promise to them was that I wouldn't stop taking drugs. Their promise to me was that I could take as many as I want and wouldn't die. So this played out for many, many years. But now I've got to the stage where I'm like, mate, I don't want to fucking play this game anymore. I had to dissolve this contract, and it was particularly around cocaine. And it made so much sense of like when I would start taking it, I would take more and more and more and more, because that was like me fulfilling my end of the bargain of that I wouldn't stop taking it. But on the flip side, even though I got pretty fucking unwell, I could go and go and go, way past most of my friends and way past any reasonable amount, and not die, basically, not have a heart attack, not die in my sleep, all of those scary things. So that's just an example of how a soul contract can play out when it comes to drug addiction and alcohol. Okay, let's go into ketamine, shall we? Let's go into the K-hole, man. So ketamine is an absolute fucker. Apart from completely taking you out of your fucking body and leaving you open to all sorts of entities to come and play, it also opens up portals, right? Ketamine, I guess, is kind of a psychedelic. Some people take it, some spiritual people who want to connect spiritually literally take ketamine to like journey with, which is something I personally don't fucking agree with at all. I'm like, come on, let's just all grow up and find a better way of doing this. I'm trying to say that with no judgment, but for fuck's sake, it's ketamine. And it does horrendous things to your body as well, aside from the spiritual effects. Crystallizes in your bladder, fucks up your kidneys. I was in and out of hospital for 4 years in my early 20s. I was chronically ill. The doctors said that I would be ill for the rest of my life. I used to have to inject my own bladder once a week. I had to catheterize myself at the age of 20. I would sit in the bathroom, I would cry. I had to put a fucking tube in my wee hole and inject it with this liquid called Cystastat that would smooth down the inside of my bladder so that I wasn't in pain. I spent 4 years, I spent a long time in a lot of pain, and it was because I took a lot of ketamine as a teenager, and I had a lot of stuff playing out spiritually again with contracts and all of that. But yeah, ketamine, apart from being really bad for your body, it opens up portals, and because when we're out, we're partying, we're not in fucking ceremony, we're out, we're just getting, again, just partying, doing whatever. If you're taking it for fun, you could be opening up all sorts of fucking dark portals in your physical space, in the area you are, on the dance floor, in the festival, wherever, in the tent, as well as dark portals around your body. Now, dark portals are a fuckery because they are, obviously they're two ways. So if there's one side one way, there's the other side of that portal. You don't know what fucking realms you're tapping into. You don't know what entities can come through. If there's dark portals in your body, they can attract injuries, illnesses, again, entity attachments, all of that fucking shit, right? So ketamine generally just shouldn't be fucked with. Again, people, if you're listening to this and you are still in a sort of relationship with drugs where you're still wanting to go out and take that occasionally, okay, great. I just want you to be fucking mindful. Do a portal closing meditation after you take it. Sit down and do your due diligence. Try and communicate with the fucking ketamine before you take it. This is all just an experiment, right? These are just suggestions. Generally, just say no, talk to Frank, all of that. But I'm being realistic that not everyone listening to this podcast is ready to go fucking teetotal, and I want to help you be as energetically safe as you can, because you're all light workers and you're all important at the end of the day, regardless of your choices. So let's talk about MDMA and pills. Let's get a little fluffy for a minute. Okay, so I personally still take MDMA and pills maybe 3 or 4 times a year when I go out. I take very, very small amounts, extremely small amounts. It is still a drug, and if you take a fuck ton, you are still going to lower your vibrations. You're still going to cause holes in your aura. But generally, MDMA as a psychedelic in small amounts, I have found to be one of the more energetically safe. I know that they are doing research on MDMA at the moment for like how it is for depression and everything. It gives you a horrendous calm down if you take loads. It will make you feel really sad afterwards because it depletes your serotonin. Also, if you take a fuck ton, again, it's when you take that much of any fucking drug, it fragments your energy and it fucks your energy field up. And a lot of people don't know how to put that back together again. So you could be causing yourself problems like holes in your aura, again, that are going to invite things in, cause illnesses, whatever, that you are unaware of, and then you're going to be carrying these around. So whatever you take, please take it in moderation. And if you're going to get completely fucktarded, you might want to book a session with a healer or a shaman afterwards and do a lot of energy work before, making sure that you are safe. But yeah, generally MDMA and pills. MDMA opens your heart up, like ecstasy opens your heart up. It's how we get that lovey-dovey feeling. So again, I don't think that it's, and this is not talking to people who take things every fucking weekend. This is for now and again. I personally think that it is something that is more preferable to take than something like alcohol that completely lowers your vibrations or whatever. Little bits of MDMA, light and fluffy, drink plenty of fucking water, have some 5-HTP for your serotonin levels, and dance your ass off if you are feeling like you want to go out and take something when you party. I'm totally waiting for the backlash of this podcast, by the way. I feel like I'm probably the first spiritual teacher to come online and teach you how to take drugs safely, but I don't understand why there isn't people out there saying this, right? It's like there's a lot of people talking about sobriety, which is fucking amazing, and for the most part I am usually sober, but it's like festivals in other countries that let you test your drugs before you take them. Like, people are gonna go out and take drugs and alcohol. A fucking large amount of these people are starseeds and light workers. Why would we not share information on how to make this more energetically safe, right? If you're gonna make those choices anyway, then make them just safer and just a little bit better. That's what this podcast is about. Okay, let's talk about little shroomies, mushrooms. I fucking love mushrooms. So I personally microdose mushrooms. I use them for anxiety and depression. If I'm going through a bit of a dark night of the soul and I'm feeling stuck, I will microdose for a week or two, psilocybin, and generally makes me feel absolutely amazing. You can use mushrooms as a plant medicine to help you spiritually connect. I use them when I personally work with mushrooms. I probably don't even take a microdose. I take like a micro dose. I'll eat like one tiny mushroom, like a Liberty cap. But I call in the spirit of the mushroom and I communicate with the mushrooms. I work with them as a plant, as a spirit, and that's how I use them to channel. On a purely recreational level, I might take a little bit more of a microdose and get ever so fucking giggly and have a bloody good time. For me, these are one of the safer ones. With that being said, if you take a fuck ton, you can end up with psychosis. And trust me when I say that is not fucking fun. The problem with psychedelics, mushrooms, LSD, ayahuasca, fucking DMT, all of that stuff. A lot of people use them as plant medicines. A lot of people have no fucking idea what they're doing. They don't understand about dosing. They don't understand about integration. They just went and got some bloody certificate somewhere and they're like, let me connect you with the fucking spirit realms through my plant fucking medicine with my certificate I got last week. Literally, there are so many people out there that are going and taking large amounts of psychedelics, breaking through their psychic channel too fucking quickly into other dimensions that they are not understanding, not fully coming back properly, and ending up with psychosis. Now, the reason this happens, I teach psychic development. As you all know, or if you're new, you probably don't know that, I teach people how to open their psychic channel safely without the use of any fucking psychedelics. People who come to my sessions say that it's like taking ayahuasca or something without taking any substances because of the frequencies that I channel. Doing it this way, in a controlled way, you're slowly opening your psychic channel and it's an organic way, right? If you're going to go and stuff a handful of mushrooms in your face or whatever else, it's like breaking through. So imagine that you've got wood in your head. And for the most part, most people have got lots of wood in their head and they're trying to connect psychically through that wood, which is why they've got a shit psychic connection. You meditate, you ground your energy, you call in your guides. It almost creates like a little split in the woods and you can connect. And over time, that bit of wood gets thinner and thinner and thinner. Now, when you are taking mass amounts of psychedelics, it's like splitting the fucking wood in half with an axe. 1555 as I'm saying this, universal confirmation. It's like splitting the wood in half with a fucking axe and then wedging it open with something, right? That wood desperately wants to close because your body, your psyche, everything has not fucking integrated and embodied shit to the level that you need to be fucking around in those astral realms for that amount of time. And quite often when we get psychosis, it's because the wood doesn't close up properly, or it closes up and it's fragmented, it's got fucking holes in. So when you get spiritual psychosis, you are having kind of two things going on. So you might see or feel that you have a lot of dark entities attached to you. This again because you've opened up fucking portals into other dimensions. You don't know how to protect your energy. You could have brought back piggybackers. Things could still be coming through portals and following you around. But on the flip side, because you've also got psychosis, your head is so fucked up that you're actually attracting a lot of this stuff. You've gone into such a fear state because you've experienced things before you are ready, before you've embodied all of the wisdom and integrated all of the shit that you need so that you're ready on all levels to experience this shit. You've just gone and fucking chucked yourself out there. So your entire body, your entire psyche is freaking out. You're riddled with fear and you are attracting bad energies and dark entities, but also firing out projections. Your psyche is literally projecting shit that isn't there, and you're paranoid as fuck and you're thinking that loads of things are following you when actually half of it is just your human brain. So went proper off on one then, but it's something I feel really passionate about. It's happened to people that I know. They've had a psychedelic induced spiritual awakening. It's happened too quickly and it's taken them a really long time to put themselves back together. Some people don't put themselves back together. They are just walking around all fragmented, half integrated. You know those people that might come up, the spiritual people that come up and they have that crazy fucking look in your eye and they're trying to tell you about the matrix and the time and all of these things, and they garble a bunch of shit that doesn't make sense. Generally when people start ranting at you about spiritual things, not on this podcast, outside of a podcast, if they just come up and start ranting at you, it's because an aspect of themselves has not integrated the information, right? This happens a lot again when people read a load of stuff in a book and they've got taken it into their psyche, but they haven't integrated it or embodied it. It's not been activated in their cells and in their soul yet. So they just go around and they spout all this fucking spiritual information without really having a clue what any of it means, because it's not integrated. This is how you get all of those false light spiritual teachers that are knocking around. But yeah, so psychedelics, use with caution, have fun with them, but don't go and take a fucking heroic dose if you don't know what you're doing. And if you are strongly drawn to plant medicine as part of your journey, obviously sacred plant medicines are on earth for a reason. It is a very viable path. Please just do your due diligence about who you are fucking working with, because yeah, if you have someone that's not able to hold space for you properly, it can open a whole heap of bullshit. Okay, so they were all the specific drugs written down that I wanted to talk about. Oh no, weed, marijuana, darling. Okay, this one is a tricky one again because I know that there is a lot of spiritual people that smoke weed and they see it as a way of life, and they are really clued in and really tapped in, and they would probably be really triggered by me saying something like habitual weed smoking blocks your channel, or that it keeps a barrier around your energy and prevents you from expanding, or that any sort of habitual drug taking, regardless of whether it grows out of the fucking ground, isn't a particularly positive thing, and there's probably some soul contracts running that are preventing you from expanding. That being said, weed, marijuana, hash, whatever, can be used as a very powerful, potent medicine, as long as you don't take it every day, basically keeping out of addiction cycles. For me personally, it completely shuts off my psychic channel. It's the only thing really that completely shuts off my psychic channel, and I occasionally smoke it when I'm going through like an insane amount of psychic upgrades, or say it's Lionsgate or a full moon or something crazy going on with the solar flares, and I'm just on edge and I'm getting psychically bombarded, like my crown chakra's too open and I'm finding it hard to shut things down. I will smoke a very small amount of weed. I'm an absolute lightweight with everything, so I pretty much put a leaf in a pipe and show the lighter to it. And all it does is it shuts everything down to a level that I feel normal and can function. I only do it, I never smoke it more than 3 days in a row. That's my rule. Just because, again, I don't want to become dependent on fucking anything. And if I'm feeling like that for more than 3 days in a row, then it's something I need to fucking sit with. It's not the planets. So generally that's my rule with this stuff. I know that there's other people I've spoken to that say that they use weed to connect psychically. If that works for you, great. Again, don't abuse it. And again, I promise you, using it over a prolonged amount of time or using it habitually will be blocking your psychic channel and preventing you from expanding. It also dulls down everything and stops you from feeling everything to its fullest potential. And when we're going through ascension, when we're going through psychic awakening, a lot of the density that's coming up, it needs to be felt in order to leave the body. So if you're constantly like, I had an ex that used to smoke a lot, and when I tried to connect with his energy, it was like him having a plastic bubble around him, and it would give me anxiety. If you're putting yourself in that much of a dense bubble all the time to stop you from feeling the outside world, you're also not going to be going through all of the layers of ascension that you need to in order to be healthy, in order to keep your soul expanding and stay in alignment with your spiritual path, in my opinion. Remember, all of this, all just my opinions. There is no facts exist anywhere, because my truth might be different to your truth, and anyone who thinks that their truth is the truth is a fucking idiot. But I hope that what I'm saying resonates with those of you that are listening. Okay, so let me talk, just wrap it up and finish off with a little bit about some of the work that I've personally been doing around recoding, reprogramming, and experimenting with drugs and alcohol to make them more safe, basically, for me to personally take. Again, like I said, I want to be able to go to a festival or a rave 3-4 times a year. I want to be able to drink tequila. I want to be able to take a quarter of a pill, because that's literally all I can take, and a couple of mushrooms. And I want to experience that pure hedonism, fucking inner child coming out of me, jumping around, having no barriers, whatever. Personally, I, again, don't think there's anything wrong with having a blowout every now and again, but I do a hell of a lot of fucking work. Like I said before, I did literally a session on a bottle of tequila. Those of you who are psychics and healers, which is most of you watching this, if there is a particular drink that you want to drink, for me, someone told me that tequila isn't a depressant years ago, and I held on to it, and now pretty much tequila is the only thing that I can drink. Take your bottle of whatever alcohol it is, or if you are in a pub getting a drink, you're going to have to do this quick smart. You can even go to the toilet and do it. Those of you who talk light language and channel light language, just set the intention with your guides to clear everything negative from the drink, to clear any contracts, any curses, any vows, any spells, to make sure that you don't open any dark portals, all of this stuff, to bring through light codes that change the vibrational frequency and the vibrational structure of this drink, so that you can drink it without experiencing any negative side effects. Okay, and then you can just channel light language. Liquid is great for reprogramming, because you just channel light language into it. If you don't channel light language, you can just go a longer way around and ask for all the individual things. I suggest literally setting up, like tapping in like you normally do, call your protection in, ground, connect with your higher self, and have your guides take you through whatever needs to be led through. Now, one thing that I would strongly recommend looking into, kind of immediately, if you're still choosing to take drugs and alcohol, is looking into your own soul contracts with these substances, because it may not be the substance itself, it may not be the contracts that are attached to the substance when you're taking it in your body that you're given permission to. The biggest thing that may be affecting you negatively may be your own soul contracts that you have with a specific substance, or with partying, with taking drugs and alcohol in general. So I really suggest going in shamanically and looking at all of those contracts, and again, working with your guides. It's going to be different for everyone. This is something that I can help you with. I can also refer you to people to help with this stuff if I'm not available. But yeah, I've been really experimenting with reprogramming alcohol, and currently I've drunk tequila like 3 times in the last maybe 8 weeks or so, because I've been going to festivals. 2 of those I only had 2 tequilas. Generally when I go out, that it is 2 tequilas. That's my limit. And both times felt absolutely fine because I did this work. Didn't have any attachments, didn't have a hangover, didn't get a headache. Usually when I drink alcohol, I get like a fucking stabbing pain, like a migraine instantly. If I try and drink a beer, they just end up getting tipped down the sink. It's why I personally stopped drinking. But yeah, working with this bottle of tequila, I can literally take a shot of it. It's in my van at the moment. I could literally go and have a shot now and be absolutely fine. It wouldn't significantly lower my vibration, whatever. If I tried to drink the bottle, obviously that's null and void. Everything I've said is null and void, because you're intoxicating yourself to the point of removing your spirit from your body, inviting things in. Okay, there isn't shortcuts for this stuff, but using it, I guess, as a medicinal dose. Medicinal tequila, anyone? Hilarious. Can't believe I'm saying some of this stuff, but I'm just being honest. Yeah, you can work with it energetically. I think that's it. I think I've said everything that I wanted to say. I'm just going to check in with my higher self if there's anything else. No. That's pretty much it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this episode on drugs and alcohol. Again, I really hope that this doesn't trigger the shit out of anyone, and that you're taking everything that I say with a pinch of salt. Please, again, if you are struggling with addiction, please, please, please get help. We've lost enough of us in this fucking lifetime. There's enough people leaving Earth because of these addiction cycles, and there is so much you can do. There is so many contracts, curses, vows, and spells. There may be spirits or aspects of you from past lives that are anchoring in this addiction, and by working with those and clearing those and healing those, the addiction itself leaves. It does take a lot of work, but versus having an active addiction, it seems like a no-brainer, right? So please, if you have an addiction, get a lot of help. I hope that you enjoy this podcast. If you would like help with psychic development, go check out my book Upgrade from Within on YouTube. I also have loads of courses you can check out on my website. If you have a subject that you would like me to talk about in the future on this podcast, please get in touch via email or via my website. I'm sending you all so much love, and I will see you again in a couple of weeks for the next episode.